The sensor made a sound. Not an alarm. Not even loud. Just a single, uncertain tone. The kind a system produced when it detected something that didn't fit any expected category. Sensor Officer Rieland's hands moved across the console immediately. She ran the scan again. Then again. I am receiving a mass reading, she said slowly. Bearing 182 by 04. Distance approximately 120,000 kilometers. Commander Thalen looked toward the forward view from the observation platform. 3 of his eyes tracked the starfield. The 4th was still reviewing the patrol schedule on his wrist console. Another empty sector sweep through the Kethra Drift. Another clean report for a region so strategically worthless that only forgotten ships were assigned to it. Possible debris field, he asked. Rieland shook her head. No spread. Single object. She hesitated. It is large. Thalen stepped down from the platform. How large? She adjusted the scan parameters. The display resolved into a rough silhouette and turned the screen toward him. Length estimate, 4.2 kilometers. Thalen studied the shape. Large vessels existed. Several species built ships in that range. Size alone was not unusual. What is its propulsion signature? Rieland did not answer immediately. She ran another scan. Then another. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. There is no propulsion signature. Thalen blinked. No emission? None. No quantum wake. No gravity distortion. No phase drive residue. No ion trail. No thermal plume. That is not possible. I am aware, Rieland said. Thalen leaned closer to the display. The object's mass reading was stable, dense, solid, moving slowly relative to local stellar drift. How is it moving? Rieland zoomed the scan. After a moment, she said quietly, it isn't. The object was not under power. It was drifting. A 4-kilometer structure drifting through deep space with no active systems. No engine. No propulsion. No sign of anything that should be keeping it here, or alive, or intact. Thalen straightened. Full spectrum scan. Maximum resolution. The bridge grew quieter as the order went out. Data began filling the central display. Material analysis. Structural density. Energy readings. Thermal profile. Each result appeared and remained unchanged. No energy shield. No structural field. No internal power grid detectable beyond minimal background heat. Rieland spoke again, slower this time. The hull appears to be metallic. That is standard. She shook her head. No, not layered composites. Not bonded alloys. Solid metal. She expanded the cross-section. The bridge went completely silent. The outer hull thickness was displayed clearly. 38 meters. That cannot be correct, Thalen said. I recalibrated the scan twice. Rieland zoomed deeper. Internal structure shows reinforced support beams. Regular spacing. Mechanical load distribution. She paused. There are also fluid channels. Coolant systems? Yes. She ran composition analysis. Then stopped. The fluid is water. No one spoke. Water. Inside a drifting metal structure. In deep space. Without active shielding. Without power. Without propulsion. The thermal display updated. Rieland's upper eyes widened. There is residual heat in several internal sections. Thalen leaned forward. Define residual. Low level. But organized. Patterned. She ran a life sign sweep. The scan returned. Rieland did not speak immediately. When she finally did, her voice was very quiet. I am detecting biological signatures. Thalen felt something cold move through his chest. How many? Rieland swallowed. Approximately 400. The bridge remained silent. 400 biological entities. Inside a drifting metal structure. Without shields. Without engines. Without power. Without any technology that should have been keeping them alive. Then communications made a soft, alert tone. Every head turned. The signal source matched the drifting object. Standard galactic emergency frequency. The channel opened automatically. For a moment, there was only static. Then a human voice came through. Calm. Tired. Completely ordinary. Hello? Unknown vessel. This is civilian transport Mercy Road. We lost our main drive 3 days ago, and we've been drifting since. Life support's holding, but we could really use a tow. A pause. And if anyone has spare coolant filters, that'd be great too. The bridge of Lethes 9 did not move. They had just spent the last 10 minutes cataloging every reason this vessel should not exist. 400 lives inside an impossible machine, drifting dead in the dark. and its crew had opened with a request for spare parts. Phelan looked at the communications officer. Confirms signal origin. Source matches the object exactly. Transmission strength is low. They are operating on minimal power. Phelan turned back to Reelan. Run life support analysis. Reelan was already working. Environmental mapping filled the main display, atmosphere density, internal temperature, pressure gradients. She stared at the results, then ran the scan again. Commander, she said slowly, their internal atmospheric pressure is within survivable range for oxygen-breathing species. That is expected. Reelan shook her head. It is being maintained by mechanical circulation systems. She expanded the diagram. Fans, pumps, manual pressure regulators. No atmospheric field generators. No environmental stabilization matrix. Just machines. Old machines. Moving air through pipes. Phelan felt the unease deepen. Power source, he asked. Reelan adjusted the spectrum filters. After several seconds, she answered. There is a reactor. What type? She hesitated. Fission. Several crew members turned toward her. Fission power had been abandoned by most spacefaring civilizations thousands of cycles earlier. It was inefficient, unstable, and heavy, something early industrial species used before discovering better energy systems. Output level? Phelan asked. Extremely low. They appear to be running it at partial capacity to conserve fuel. She brought up the thermal layout. Large portions of the vessel were dark, unpowered, cold. They have shut down most internal systems. Only life support, communications, and limited structural heating remain active. Phelan studied the structural scan again. 38 meters of metal, reinforced beams, water channels, manual systems, a fission reactor, 400 biologicals, drifting, and still alive. Structural integrity estimate? He asked. Reelan ran the simulation. The result appeared. She stared at it. Commander, this vessel should not have broken apart. Phelan looked at her. Explain. The hull mass is extremely high. Even without structural fields, the physical thickness alone protects against micro-impacts and thermal stress. The internal support beams distribute load across the entire frame. She paused. It is inefficient, but extremely durable. Another officer spoke from materials analysis. I am detecting multiple external repair sites. The forward display shifted. Close-range imaging zoomed in on the drifting vessel. The ship came into view for the first time. It was not sleek. It was not elegant. It looked assembled rather than designed. Flat surfaces, exposed structural ridges, external piping in several sections. And patches. Hundreds of patches. Different shades of metal. Different shapes. Some clearly welded by hand. One section appeared to have a rectangular plate bolted directly over a hull breach. That vessel has suffered catastrophic damage multiple times, the materials officer said quietly. And it is still operational, Reelan added. Communications spoke again. They are transmitting additional data, Commander. Civilian registry. The information appeared. United Earth Cooperative Transport Vessel. Mercy Road primary function. Long-range cargo and personnel transport. Phelan read the crew manifest. For 112 personnel. Cargo, industrial machinery, structural materials, agricultural equipment. Not a warship. Not an exploration vessel. A cargo transport. Another transmission came through. This time with more background noise, metal sounds, voices, tools striking something. Unknown vessel. If you're receiving this, we're stable, but our drive core is completely offline. We've got repair teams working, but it's a long shot. A pause. Then, quieter. We've got families on board. Another voice in the background shouted something about a coolant line. The transmission ended. Phelan felt the atmosphere on the bridge shift. This was no longer an anomaly. He turned to Reelan. Estimate survival time. Current resource levels suggest approximately 18 standard days before life support degradation becomes critical. Drive repair probability? She ran another scan. The main propulsion system showed extensive internal damage. Manual access panels were open. Teams were working inside the engine housing. Reelan exhaled slowly. Low. Very low. Phelan studied the ship again. It was ugly, heavy, inefficient, primitive, and yet 400 beings were alive inside it. Because every system had a backup, and that backup had another backup. And when systems failed, they repaired them, manually. Reelan spoke quietly, almost to herself. They are not preventing failure. Thalen looked at her. What? They expect things to break, she said. And they build the ship so it keeps working anyway. The forward display zoomed again. One of the external sections showed movement. Small figures. Humans. In suits. Working outside the hull. Bolting another patch over a damaged panel. No drones. No automated repair systems. Just people working in vacuum, holding the ship together one patch at a time. Communications turned. Commander, they are sending a request. Thalen nodded. Display. The message appeared. Request. Tow assistance secondary request. Industrial coolant filters additional note. We can pay. Or trade. Or help fix something if you've got problems too. There was a long silence on the bridge. Thalen looked at the drifting ship. At the patches. The exposed structure. The minimal power. The 400 lives inside a machine that should not still be functioning. Then he gave the order. Navigation. Plot intercept course. He paused. And communications, inform them assistance is on the way. The distance between Lethes, 9, and the human vessel closed slowly. Commander Thalen chose a cautious approach speed. Not because he considered the drifting transport a threat, the sensor data made that unlikely, but because nothing about the Mercy Road behaved according to standard expectations. It was a ship that should have failed. And it hadn't. The forward display gradually filled with the human vessel. Up close, it looked even less refined. Sections of the hull did not match. Plates from different manufacturing batches welded together over time. External frameworks supported areas where the original structure had been reinforced rather than replaced. Industrial containers were bolted directly to the outer spine. A long section along the port side showed scorch patterns that suggested a past engine failure, repaired without removing the damaged material. Rieland studied the visual feed. This vessel has been modified repeatedly, she said. Not upgraded. Altered. Thalen nodded. It looked less like a finished product and more like something that had been kept alive. Lethes, 9, this is Mercy Road. Good to see you coming in. We were starting to run out of good ideas over here. The same voice from before. Female. Calm. A little tired, but steady. Thalen activated the response. This is Commander Thalen of Observation Vessel, Lethes 9. We are preparing towing procedures. Please transmit your structural hardpoint locations. A short pause. Yeah? About that. Metal clanged loudly somewhere near her microphone. Hardpoints 3 and 4 are solid. Hardpoint 2 is technically solid, but we'd prefer you not use it unless you like surprises. Hardpoint 1 fell off yesterday. Thalen glanced at Rieland. Rieland stared back. We've got a reinforcement frame welded around Section 5. I'm sending you a structural diagram. It's ugly, but it'll hold. The data arrived. Rieland brought it up. The reinforcement was exactly as described. Ugly. Uneven. Functional. Thalen spoke again. Your propulsion failure. Explain. Primary fusion core suffered a containment breach 3 days ago. Automatic shutdown worked, which was nice. Secondary drive burned out when we tried to restart. Tertiary drive technically still exists, but it mostly makes noise and produces disappointment. There was laughter in the background. Rieland leaned toward her console and ran deeper scans. Commander, she said quietly, the propulsion system appears to have been repaired multiple times in the past. We've got engineering teams trying to rebuild the core, but we're missing parts. Also missing several tools. And a section of the manual. Long story. Another voice in the background shouted. Tell them about the coolant pumps. Coolant pumps are fine, the first human said quickly. Then, after a pause, they're mostly fine. Thalen studied the ship again. External maintenance hatches were open in several places. Humans in vacuum suits moved along the hull, carrying equipment, guiding cables, tightening clamps. No drones. No automated repair arrays. Every task done by hand. Rieland spoke again. I am detecting active internal construction. Construction? Thalen asked. Yes. Several structural sections are being reinforced from inside. They are not waiting for rescue to stabilize the ship. By the way, Commander, I should probably mention, our rotation control system is manual right now. If we start drifting while you're attaching, that's not intentional. Thalen replied carefully. Understood. A pause. Then the human added, we'll try not to drift. More laughter in the background. Thalen muted the channel. The bridge was quiet for a moment. They are remarkably calm, Rieland said. They are accustomed to failure, Thalen replied. He watched the external feed. A human worker slipped while moving along a hull beam. Another grabbed the safety line immediately. They stabilized themselves and went back to work. No panic. No urgency beyond what was necessary. Just steady motion. Rillen opened a life support analysis window. Commander, their environmental systems are running at 82% capacity. Is that dangerous? For most species, yes. And for them. Rillen checked the biological tolerance data. Within acceptable limits. Another update appeared. Internal sections of the ship were being selectively depressurized to conserve air. Entire compartments shut down. Crew redistributed. 400 lives operating inside a controlled failure environment. The channel chimed again. Thalen reopened it. Let his 9, before you attach, one more thing. Yes. If the tow takes more than 6 days, we're going to start running into food limitations. Thalen paused. Your supply reserves were listed for 22 days. Yeah, the human said. Another pause. We've been feeding the kids first. Silence filled the bridge. Then the human continued, in the same steady tone. We'll manage. Just thought you should know. No drama. No request for priority. Just information. Rillen looked at the life sign display again. There were indeed multiple smaller biological signatures. Children. Thalen stood very still for a moment. Then he spoke. Navigation. Increase approach speed by 12%. Yes, Commander. Engineering. Prepare auxiliary life support transfer capability. Yes, Commander. Logistics. Inventory food reserves for possible transfer. Rillen looked at him. You are exceeding standard assistance protocol. Thalen watched the human workers on the hull. One of them paused, looked toward the approaching Let his 9, and raised an arm in a simple wave. Thalen answered quietly. They are exceeding standard survival protocol. The towing connection took 6 hours. Not because the process itself was complex. The Let his 9 was equipped for rescue operations, but because the Mercy Road required constant adjustment during the procedure. The ship did not hold still. It drifted, corrected, drifted again. Each time, the human crew compensated using short bursts of gas from different sections of the hull, manually adjusting their orientation with the limited pressure reserves they could spare. From the observation display, Commander Thalen watched the process unfold. Every movement was slow, every correction imperfect, but the ship always returned to alignment. Eventually, primary tow cables secured. Structural stress? Thalen asked. Rillen reviewed the load distribution. There were irregularities. The ship's mass was unevenly distributed, likely the result of years of modifications, repairs, and cargo adjustments. Within tolerance, she said, then added, barely. Begin controlled acceleration. The massive transport responded. Slowly, the cables tightened. The Mercy Road shifted behind them and held. On the main display, the human ship looked less like a vessel now and more like a structure being dragged through space. Heavy, scarred, stubborn. 3 hours into the tow, Rillen began the full structural analysis. Now that the vessel was within close sensor range and relatively stable, she could run scans at a level of detail that had not been possible before. The results arrived in layers. Each one made the bridge quieter. Commander, she said eventually, the original hull design has been modified extensively. How extensively? Rillen expanded the schematic. The original structure was visible, a long cargo spine with modular sections. But attached to it were additions. Reinforcement ribs, external support frames, secondary plating, internal bulkhead layers added later. Mass increase since original construction, approximately 43%. Thalen stared at the number. That is beyond design tolerance. Yes. Then how is the structure holding? Rillen highlighted several internal systems. Load redistribution. The display showed a network of thick mechanical braces, hydraulic tension systems, and fluid channels. The water system is not only thermal regulation, she said. It is structural. She zoomed in. Pressurized liquid ran through large pipes along the spine and outer framework. The pressure inside these lines provides additional rigidity during stress. They did not redesign the ship. They reinforced it. More skin data arrived. Life support systems for independent networks. Atmospheric circulation, triple overlap zones. Water purification, 2 primary systems, 3 auxiliary units. She paused. There are also manual pump stations located every 50 meters. Thalen looked at her. Manual. Yes. Mechanical lever operation. The engineering officer leaned closer. Commander, I am detecting multiple electrical subsystems that appear to have been disconnected intentionally. They have isolated non-essential systems from the main grid to reduce failure propagation. If one system fails, it cannot overload the others. Thalen studied the display. This vessel is not optimized for performance. No, Rieland said. It is optimized for survival. The external imaging team spoke. Commander, you should see this. The forward display switched to a magnified hull section. One of the repair plates had been removed. Humans were working underneath it. Inside the exposed section were layers. Not one hull wall, but several. Original metal. Reinforcement plate. Ceramic layer. Another metal sheet. Insulation. Then another support frame. The materials officer ran a thickness estimate. Total protective depth in this section, 52 meters. Thalen blinked. That is equivalent to heavy warship armor. This is a civilian transport, the officer said quietly. Another image appeared, a section where the hull had been penetrated at some point in the past. Instead of replacing the damaged structure, the humans had built an entire reinforced compartment around the weakened area. Localized damage containment, Rieland said. They do not remove weakness. They isolate it. Communications chimed. The Mercy Road was transmitting internal system data voluntarily. Rieland opened the feed. Maintenance logs. Repair schedules. Failure reports. The bridge grew silent as the records scrolled. Engine failure. Repaired. Atmospheric leak. Patched. Structural fracture. Reinforced. Power cascade. Grid divided. Cooling failure. Manual bypass. Some entries were recent. Some were decades old. One system had been repaired 17 times and was still operational. Rieland spoke softly. They are not maintaining the ship. They are adapting it. Thalen requested a crew performance estimate. The life sign data was analyzed. Sleep cycles were irregular. Work rotations were extended. Many individuals showed signs of fatigue, but activity levels remained high. Rieland added, Commander, I am detecting something unusual. She brought up internal movement patterns. Repair teams were distributed throughout the ship, but they were not centralized. There were small tool stations everywhere. Spare parts stored in multiple locations. Portable equipment caches. Every section of the ship has local repair capability, she said. They do not rely on central maintenance. The engineering officer understood immediately. If one area is isolated, the crew inside can still fix it. Thalen looked at the drifting giant behind them. Every system inefficient. Every structure heavy. Every design choice wasteful. And yet if something broke, there was always another way to keep it working. Rieland spoke the conclusion quietly. They did not build this ship to avoid failure. She looked at the structural map. They built it assuming failure was inevitable. Thalen watched the Mercy Road on the external display. Patches. Reinforcements. Layers. Manual systems. For 100 people living inside a machine that should have stopped functioning years ago. And yet it hadn't. Because every time it failed, someone fixed it. And when it failed again, they fixed it again. Rieland finished the thought. This vessel does not operate because its systems are reliable. She paused. It operates because its crew refuses to let it die. 6 hours into the tow, the first direct technical conference was established between the crews. Commander Thalen had requested it after reviewing the structural analysis. There was too much about the human vessel that did not make sense. The human who appeared on the visual channel did not match the image Thalen had unconsciously constructed. She was not wearing a formal uniform. Her clothing was practical, reinforced work fabric, sleeves rolled up, dark stains along one shoulder that the sensors identified as coolant residue. Her hair was tied back loosely. There were shadows under her eyes. She looked like someone who had not slept in 2 days. She also looked completely calm. Commander Thalen, she said. Yes. Captain Elena Marquez. Mercy Road. Thanks for the tow. You probably saved a few hundred people a very bad week. No ceremony. No formal gratitude speech. Just a statement of fact. Thalen inclined his head. We are reviewing your vessel's condition. I require clarification on several design elements. Sure, Marquez said. If something looks strange, there's usually a story behind it. Rieland brought up the structural model. Your hull mass exceeds original design limits by over 40%. Why was the vessel not rebuilt? Marquez glanced at the display. Because it still works. Rieland paused. The additional mass reduces efficiency by approximately 31%. Probably, Marquez said. But it increases survival time when something goes wrong. Thalen leaned forward. You are trading performance for durability. Marquez nodded. Performance matters when everything is going right. Durability matters when it isn't. Rylan opened another system. Your life support network has 4 independent circulation loops. Standard design requires only 1 primary and 1 backup. Yeah, Marquez said. We tried 2 once. Lost both in a power cascade during a micrometeor event. People couldn't breathe for 3 minutes. She leaned back slightly in her chair. A small, deliberate pause. I was 19. My first deep space posting. The engineer next to me went gray in the face, and I thought that was it. That was how we died. 3 minutes is a very long time when the air stops moving. Silence filled the bridge. So now you use 4, Thalen said. Now we use 4, she confirmed. Rylan moved to the power grid. You have intentionally divided your electrical systems into isolated segments. This reduces energy efficiency. It also keeps one failure from taking the whole ship down. The engineering officer spoke. You also maintain manual control capability for most systems. Every system we can manage, she said. Why? Marquez shrugged slightly. Because computers fail. That is why backups exist. Backups fail too. Rylan studied the maintenance logs again. Multiple system failures. Multiple manual recoveries. You expect failure, she said. Marquez gave a small smile. We planned for it. Thalen switched to the propulsion schematic. Your primary drive has been repaired 14 times. 15, Marquez corrected. We're working on number 16 now. Why not replace the unit? Marquez leaned back. Because replacement requires a shipyard. She gestured off-screen. Repair requires tools and people. We always have those. Rylan brought up the environmental systems. Your crew is operating under extended work cycles beyond optimal biological limits. Marquez nodded. That's temporary. You have been operating under that condition for 72 hours. Still temporary. Thalen studied her expression. There was no strain in her voice. No sign of alarm. Just steady focus. Captain Marquez, he said, your vessel operates continuously under degraded conditions. Yes. You accept system loss as normal. Yes. You accept structural damage as normal. Yes. You accept reduced performance as normal. Marquez folded her arms. We accept reality as normal. Rylan hesitated, then asked the question that had been forming since the first scan. By our engineering models, your vessel should not remain operational at its current failure rate. Marquez considered that. Then she said, that's because your models are trying to predict when the ship stops working. Rylan waited. Our model is different, Marquez continued. What is your model? Thalen asked. The human answered simply. The ship keeps working as long as the crew can fix things faster than they break. The bridge was silent. Rylan slowly replayed the maintenance data in her mind. Failure. Repair. Failure. Repair. Always behind. But never falling too far behind. Marquez leaned forward slightly. You're looking for a design secret. There isn't one. Rylan looked at her. Then what keeps the vessel operational? Marquez gave the answer without hesitation. We don't stop fixing it. Thalen switched to external imaging. Your crew performs frequent extravehicular repairs without automation support. This increases risk. Yeah, Marquez said. But waiting for a drone you don't have increases risk more. The engineering officer asked, why not reduce system complexity to lower failure rates? Marquez shook her head. Because space is complicated. Systems fail for reasons you didn't predict. You don't survive by having fewer systems. She tapped the console. You survive by having more options. Rylan spoke again, slowly. Your vessel is inefficient. Heavy. Redundant. Resource-intensive. Marquez nodded. All true. Rylan looked at the structural layers. Then why design it this way? Marquez was quiet for a moment. Then she said, because eventually, something goes wrong that you didn't plan for. She leaned back. And when that happens, efficiency stops matching. Thalen asked the final question. What matters then? Marquez answered, whether you can keep going. The channel remained open for a moment. Then Marquez added, almost casually, ships don't fail all at once. They fail a little at a time. She looked off-screen toward the sound of tools. Our job is to make sure they never fail faster than we can fix them. The transmission ended. The bridge of let his. 9 remained silent. Rylan finally spoke. They do not design for peak performance. Thalen nodded slowly. They design for endurance. Rylan looked at the Mercy Road on the external display. Layered, patched, reinforced, still moving, still alive. She spoke the conclusion quietly. This ship is not strong because it avoids failure. Thalen finished the thought. It is strong because it survives failure. The first warning came 12 hours after the tow began. It did not come from the Mercy Road. A faint distortion at the edge of detection range. Gravitational interference where no mass should have been. Sensor Officer Rylan adjusted the filters. Ran the scan again. The distortion sharpened. Multiple signatures. Moving fast. Commander, she said quietly, I am detecting high-energy drive wakes. Bearing 041 by 19. Distance, approximately 2.3 million kilometers. Commander Thalen moved to her station. Classification. The result appeared. Her upper eyes widened. Sovereignty Fleet signatures. The bridge grew still. The Sovereignty did not patrol this region. The Kethra drift had no strategic value, which meant this was not a patrol. How many? Multiple contacts resolving. 8. No 10. She zoomed the display. 3 heavy cruisers. For fast attack ships. 2 carrier-class support vessels. She paused. And 1 command vessel. 10 warships. Against 1 patrol vessel. And 1 disabled civilian transport. Navigation spoke carefully. Commander, our current tow configuration reduces maneuver capability by 62%. Rylan ran trajectory projections. They are moving on an intercept course. Estimated time to engagement? 4 hours. Communications chimed. An automated broadcast on all frequencies, encrypted, military priority, then resolved into galactic common. Unidentified vessels in Sovereignty operational space. Power down and prepare for inspection. Non-compliance will be treated as hostile intent. Thalen watched the tactical display. The fleet formation tightened. They were accelerating. Inspection was not their objective. Commander, the Mercy Road cannot accelerate beyond tow velocity. Navigation added. If we release the tow, they will drift directly into Sovereignty intercept range. Thalen looked at the external display. The Mercy Road followed behind them, heavy and slow, its patched hull reflecting the distant light of the old stars. 400 civilians. Families. Children. No propulsion. No defenses. He opened a channel. Captain Marquez, this is Commander Thalen. The human response came immediately. We're seeing the same thing. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Let me guess. You're thinking about cutting us loose so you can run. Thalen did not answer. You should, she said. Our max speed under tow is limiting you. Without us, you might outrun them. Rylan checked the numbers. She spoke quietly. Probability of successful escape, 32%. Not good, but better than 0. Marquez spoke again. You've already done more than anyone else would have. Cut the tow. Save your ship. Thalen studied the tactical display. The Sovereignty ships were closing faster than expected. They will reach you within 3 hours if we disengage, he said. Yeah, Marquez replied. Another pause. Then, simply, we'll manage. Rylan turned toward Thalen. They cannot survive engagement. She did not need to say anything further. The Sovereignty formation tightened again. Attack configuration. This was not inspection. This was asset seizure. Or destruction. Another message from the Sovereignty. Power down immediately. Release civilian vessel for collection. Resistance will result in force. They intend to capture the Mercy Road, Rylan said. Thalen understood why. A large human transport. Industrial cargo. 400 labor-capable individuals. The Sovereignty did not waste resources. Marquez spoke again. Commander, if they take us, they're not taking us somewhere nice. Her tone was still calm, but the background noise had changed. Voices. Movement. The sound of equipment being moved quickly. You should go, she said again. Then, after a moment, we're going to try something. What kind of propulsion capacity remains? Thalen asked. Rylan checked. Minimal. Short duration thrust using pressure venting and emergency maneuver gas. Thalen opened the channel. Captain, your vessel cannot evade. No, Marquez agreed. Another pause. But we don't have to evade. The bridge went quiet. What do you intend? Thalen asked. Marquez answered simply. We're going to make ourselves difficult. External imaging zoomed in on the Mercy Road. Activity across the hull had increased dramatically. Large external cargo containers were being repositioned. Structural arms extended. Additional reinforcement frames locked into place along the spine. Rieland's sensors updated. Commander, they are redistributing mass. For what purpose? She calculated. Then her voice changed. They are increasing structural density along the forward axis. The tactical officer understood first. They're reinforcing the front of the ship. The Mercy Road slowly rotated behind the tow cables. Turning, facing the incoming fleet. Thalen opened the channel again. Captain Marquez, explain your intentions. Her answer came immediately. We can't run. The ship finished its rotation. The reinforced bow pointed toward the approaching Sovereignty formation. We can't fight. More cargo containers locked into place along the forward structure. But we're very heavy. The bridge of Lethes 9 went silent. Rieland ran the collision projection. The numbers appeared. She stared at them, then looked at Thalen. Commander, if they accelerate under tow. She hesitated. They could achieve impact mass equivalent to a kinetic strike weapon. The Mercy Road's remaining engines flickered weakly. Gas vented from multiple ports. Slow acceleration began. Marquez's voice came through one more time. We don't stop easily. On the tactical display, the Sovereignty fleet continued closing. But now there were two ships moving toward them. One fast, one slow, one armed, one massive, and one of them had just decided it was a weapon. The Sovereignty fleet changed formation the moment the Mercy Road began accelerating. At first, the adjustment was minor, a slight widening of their approach vector. Standard intercept behavior. Then their tactical analysis finished, and their formation broke. They have identified the collision trajectory, Rieland said, voice tight. The fast attack ships surged forward, not to engage, but to intercept. Captain Marquez, Thalen transmitted, they will disable you before impact. Yeah, she replied. No hesitation. No surprise. We figured. The Mercy Road continued accelerating. Slow, heavy, relentless. Behind it, the towing cables strained as Lethes 9 added controlled thrust. Commander, structural load approaching safe limits. Maintain acceleration. The first Sovereignty strike came at long range. Plasma lance fire. 3 bright lines crossed the darkness and struck the Mercy Road's forward hull. Metal vaporized. Outer plating ruptured. A thermal bloom spread across the reinforced bow. Rieland pulled up the structural data. Outer layer compromised in sections. Internal integrity? Thalen asked. She checked, then blinked. Holding. The Mercy Road did not slow. More plasma fire followed. The fast attack ships began strafing runs, targeting the forward reinforcement structures. Chunks of cargo container armor were blasted away. One entire external frame broke loose and spun off into space. The impact alarms aboard the human ship were audible through the open channel. Marquez's voice cut through the noise. Damage control teams, forward sectors. Keep the spine intact. No panic. No shouting. Just instructions. Rieland monitored internal conditions. Multiple hull breaches. Atmosphere loss. Localized. Bulkhead sealed. She paused. They are abandoning forward compartments. The Mercy Road continued accelerating. The heavy cruisers opened fire. High-intensity plasma strikes hammered the reinforced bow. Sections of the outer hull glowed, then melted, then peeled away. The internal structure appeared, support beams, layered plating, reinforced panels, water lines. The next volley hit. Steam exploded outward as multiple pressure pipes ruptured. For a long moment, the forward section disappeared entirely inside a cloud of vaporized coolant. When it cleared, the Mercy Road was still there. Structural integrity dropping, 68%. Rieland's voice was sharp, urgent. Then she checked again. Stabilizing. How? Thalen asked. Internal support frames are redistributing load. She looked up. They designed the structure to collapse in layers. Inside the Mercy Road, damage control activity surged. Teams moved through depressurized sections in suits. Welding, bracing, sealing. One major support beam failed. Within 2 minutes, a secondary brace was bolted into place manually. The ship kept accelerating. The Sovereignty carriers launched intercept craft, small, fast vessels targeting the propulsion vents and structural weak points. Point defense did not exist on the Mercy Road. The intercept craft began cutting into exposed sections. Marquez's voice came through again. All hands, pressure vent protocol. Every remaining high-pressure steam line in the forward third of the ship opened simultaneously. A massive cloud of superheated vapor erupted outward. The intercept craft flew directly into it. Two broke formation immediately. One lost control and spun away. The others pulled back. The Mercy Road kept moving. Now the Sovereignty Command vessel began maneuvering. Large, heavily shielded. Designed for fleet coordination, not collision avoidance. Its engines burned bright as it attempted lateral displacement. Too late. The Sovereignty fired everything. Full fleet plasma concentration. Continuous beam strikes. The forward third of the Mercy Road was now a glowing wreck. Outer layers gone, cargo armor destroyed, structural beams exposed and breaking. Reelan reported steadily. Integrity, 50%. 42. 38. Then she paused, stabilizing again. Thalen looked at her. How? She showed the internal activity. The humans were cutting away entire damaged sections, removing weight, removing structural stress, letting the ship become shorter, but stronger. They are sacrificing the front to protect the spine. The distance dropped below critical threshold. The Sovereignty Command vessel attempted emergency thrust. The Mercy Road hit. There was no explosion, no dramatic flash, just impact. 4 million tons of reinforced mass moving at combat velocity slammed into the Sovereignty vessel's flank. The result was immediate. The command ship's shields failed under kinetic overload. Its structure folded. The forward half sheared away. The rear section spun violently, venting atmosphere and debris in long, slow arcs into the dark. The Mercy Road pushed through the wreckage, its own forward section collapsing further as it absorbed the collision, giving way deliberately. The way something built to absorb impact gives way, not breaking so much as bending around the wound. Reelan checked the readings. Mercy Road structural integrity, 27%. Life signs fluctuated wildly, then stabilized. Crew survival confirmed, she said quietly. The Sovereignty formation broke. Fast attack ships pulled back. One cruiser attempted to close. The other two retreated immediately. Without their command vessel, coordination collapsed. Within minutes, the fleet began full withdrawal, leaving the shattered flagship behind. Silence returned to the sector. Except for one thing. The Mercy Road was still moving. Slowly now. Barely. But moving. Thalen opened the channel. Captain Marquez. Status. There was a long pause. Then her voice came back. Tired. Breathing hard. But steady. We're operational. Reelan checked the internal systems. Life support. Partial. Power. Emergency. Structural integrity. Critical but stable. Damage? Thalen asked. Marquez gave a short, exhausted laugh. Front fell off. Then, after a moment. But the important part didn't. On the external display, the Mercy Road drifted beside the shattered remains of the Sovereignty flagship. Its forward third was gone. Its structure was twisted. Sections were open to space. Repair teams were already moving across the exposed spine. Welding. Bracing. Sealing. Working. As if the battle had been just another system failure. Reelan spoke quietly. They did not win by strength. Thalen watched the damaged ship. The drifting wreckage. The moving repair teams. The steady life sign readings. No, he said. They won by refusing to stop. For several minutes after the Sovereignty fleet withdrew, no one spoke on the bridge of Lethes 9. The Mercy Road drifted in the silence. What remained of it? The forward third of the transport was gone entirely. The structure ended in a jagged mass of torn metal, exposed beams, and ruptured pipes venting vapor in thin white streams. By any engineering model, the ship should have been breaking apart. Instead, it was stabilizing. Reelan's console updated continuously. Structural integrity holding at 25%. Load redistribution active. Internal bulkhead sealed. She paused. Commander, they have already isolated the destroyed section. Thalen looked at the external feed. Humans in vacuum suits were moving along the exposed spine, cutting away loose material, removing debris, installing temporary braces. Not waiting. Not resting. Repairing. Immediately. Communications opened automatically. Lethes 9, this is Mercy Road. Captain Marquez's voice was rough now, fatigue finally audible. But steady. We're going to need tow stabilization. Our mass distribution is different. Navigation checked the numbers. The ship's center of mass had shifted significantly. Adjusting tow alignment, Thalen ordered. The cables repositioned. The Mercy Road stopped rotating, then held steady. Rillen checked life signs again. Crew survival, 398 confirmed. 2 missing. The numbers stayed on the screen. No one commented. Marquez spoke again. Life support is stable in the central sections. We've lost forward habitation and cargo, but the core spine is intact. She paused. Kids are safe. The bridge remained silent. Then Thalen said, "Understood." Long-range sensors chimed. Rillen checked the new contacts. Her expression changed. Commander, multiple Conclave fleet signatures. High-speed approach. 3 heavy cruisers. 5 escorts. Maximum acceleration. Estimated arrival, 18 minutes. Thalen opened a priority channel. This is observation vessel, Lethis 9. Situation under control. Hostile fleet has withdrawn. Civilian vessel heavily damaged, but operational. A pause. Then the response. Repeat. Civilian vessel operational. Thalen looked at the Mercy Road. At the missing front section. At the exposed structure. At the humans still welding along the spine. Yes. Operational. 18 minutes later, the Conclave fleet arrived. Their formation slowed as they entered visual range. Then slowed further. Then stopped completely. This is Cruiser Resolute Arc. A long pause. We are observing the civilian vessel. No one on the bridge of Lethis 9 spoke. Because there was nothing to explain. The Mercy Road drifted between the fleets. Its bow was gone. Its hull was torn and blackened. Several compartments were exposed directly to space. One entire cargo section was missing. And yet, running lights were active. Engines were producing minimal stabilization thrust. Internal activity showed full crew movement. Repair teams were working across 17 separate sections. Life support levels were rising. Slowly. Steadily. Commander Thalen. Confirm engagement outcome. Thalen answered. Sovereignty Command vessel destroyed by kinetic collision. Silence. Then, civilian vessel performed the collision? Yes. Another long pause. Then the fleet commander said quietly. Understood. Rillen monitored the Sovereignty retreat. They are not regrouping. The command vessel loss disrupted their operational control structure. She looked up. They did not expect resistance. Thalen watched the Mercy Road. They did not expect persistence. A new channel opened. Hey, whoever's in charge out there. The fleet commander responded. This is Fleet Command. We are preparing emergency support operations. Great, Marquez said. We're going to need structural plates, coolant lines, atmosphere tanks, medical supplies. She paused. And if anyone has spare forward sections, that'd be ideal. There was quiet laughter somewhere on the Lethis 9 bridge. We will provide what we can, the fleet commander answered. Appreciate it, Marquez said. Then, after a brief hesitation, also, sorry about the debris field. Rillen looked at the life sign display again. Fatigue indicators were high. Injury reports were significant. But activity levels remained steady. They are not slowing down, she said. Thalen followed her gaze. External cameras showed repair teams already installing the first permanent structural frame where the bow had once been. Working, organizing, continuing. As if losing a third of the ship was simply another problem to solve. Rillen spoke quietly. Commander, this vessel should have been destroyed. Yes. It should have failed long before impact. Yes. She looked at the steady life sign patterns. The stable internal pressure. The rising system efficiency. Why didn't it? Thalen watched the Mercy Road for a long moment. Then he answered. Because failure was never the condition that mattered. Rillen waited. Thalen finished the thought. Stopping was. The Mercy Road did not stop. And now the entire Conclave fleet was watching. The first full analysis report reached Conclave Command 4 hours after the engagement. Transmitted from 3 separate ships. Each report contained the same data. Each report reached the same conclusion. And none of the analysts who read it were comfortable with what it implied. The central briefing chamber on Conclave Station Arath Prime filled quickly. Fleet officers, structural engineers, weapons specialists, systems theorists, representatives from 8 member species. The display at the center of the room showed a rotating image of the Mercy Road, or what remained of it, the forward third gone, the exposed spine partially rebuilt with temporary reinforcement frames. Repair activity markers showing ongoing work in 26 separate sections. Life support levels, stable. Power output, increasing. Projected operational status, 72 hours. The room was silent. Fleet Commander Telvar spoke first. Engagement summary. The tactical replay began. Sovereignty Fleet intercept. Plasma strikes. Structural degradation. Mass redistribution. Acceleration. Collision. Command vessel destroyed. Civilian vessel operational. The simulation ended. No one spoke for several seconds. Then the weapons analyst said, "That was not a military maneuver." "No," Telvar agreed. "It was a survival maneuver." The structural engineering team requested the hull analysis. Layered metal. Internal reinforcement frames. Concrete composite sections. Pressurized fluid support systems. Localized compartment isolation. Manual repair access across the entire structure. The senior architect studied the model, then asked quietly, "How old is this ship?" The answer appeared. Service age, 38 standard years. The room grew quieter. "Our military vessels undergo full structural replacement every 12 years, one engineer said. Another added, "This vessel has been rebuilt continuously instead." A systems theorist brought up the failure logs. Thousands of entries. Component loss. Structural damage. Power failures. Environmental breaches. Each followed by repair. Modification. Reinforcement. Adaptation. "This ship does not maintain original design integrity," the theorist said. She paused. "It evolves." Fleet Commander Telvar turned to the medical analysis. Crew fatigue, extreme. Injury rate, high. Operational continuity, uninterrupted. Crew response time during combat remained within optimal range, the medical officer said. "How?" The answer was in the personnel records. Cross-trained roles. Distributed technical knowledge. Manual system familiarity across multiple specialties. Every crew member can repair multiple critical systems. If specialists are lost, operations continue. The weapons division presented their conclusion. The collision event delivered kinetic energy equivalent to a capital-class impact weapon. But the vessel was not designed as a weapon. The analyst paused. It became one because it did not fail first. Silence returned to the chamber. The senior architect spoke. "We have spent 4,000 years optimizing our designs. We reduce mass, increase efficiency, eliminate redundancy." He rotated the Mercy Road model slowly. The layered hull, the multiple redundant systems, the manual backups, the structural overbuild, the operational inefficiency. "But when damage occurs," he continued, "our ships lose performance." He zoomed in on the Mercy Road's internal activity. Work teams moving continuously, systems coming back online, the vessel still improving, still recovering, still operating. "This ship loses parts." The systems theorist summarized the difference. "Our doctrine assumes failure is rare and should be prevented." She highlighted the Mercy Road's repair history. Their doctrine assumes failure is constant and must be survived. Fleet Commander Telvar asked the final question. "If this had been one of our vessels, would it have survived the same engagement?" The room was silent. Because the simulation data was already available. Conclave warships were optimized for performance, shield-dependent, system-linked, efficiency maximized. Under the same damage profile, most would have experienced cascading system failure within minutes. The Mercy Road had remained operational for hours. The Strategic Analysis Division spoke last. This was not an isolated case. They displayed human vessel design patterns, redundant structure, manual fallback systems, distributed repair capacity, crew-heavy operations, operational philosophy, continue under degradation. Human engineering does not prioritize winning. The room waited. It prioritizes not losing. The chamber remained quiet for a long time. The senior architect spoke again. "We have been optimizing for perfection." He looked at the image of the damaged transport. "They have been optimizing for survival." A new directive was issued before the meeting ended. Initiate Human Systems Study Program Working Title, Endurance Margin Initiative. 3 days later, the Mercy Road transmitted its first independent propulsion test. 4 days later, it achieved sustained low-speed thrust. 5 days later, it resumed escorted travel. The forward section was still missing. Temporary structure extended from the spine like a skeletal framework. But the running lights were active. All of them. On Conclave Station, a junior analyst added a note to the official report. It was not part of the formal conclusion, but it was repeated later in multiple briefings. The human vessel was never the strongest object in the engagement. It was simply the last one that stopped working. And across the conclave, a new question began appearing in design meetings. Not, how efficient can this system be? But, how long will it keep working after it fails?